In Chapter 11.1, we learned how to take particles to moles, or given moles, taking moles to particles. That's why you're seeing in this video right now particles on one side and moles on the other. So if I wanted to take particles to moles, I would be following the top arrow. If I wanted to take moles to particles, I would go this way. And as a means of review, let's look at a typical chemical equation. To get the idea of particles, what I wanted to do is show you this equation, which you did as classwork on Monday. And what we have is a substance here that we would call a molecule. Here we have something that we would call an element. And here, a molecule again, molecule, molecule. So we have two kinds of particles. We have atoms, and actually this atom is a molecule, so we could call it an element, and this could be called a compound if we have a bunch of them. But right now what we want to do is separate our particles in two categories. And the first category is atoms. Atoms. Atoms, in this case, we're talking about the element. And so what's another way that we might see atoms? Well, we might see atoms as a single element all by itself, or a single atom all by itself. But in either case, we would be talking about a particle. And here we would be talking about, so we could have molecules. I've made the color change here so that you can see that this all applies to molecules. But molecules are here, here, and here. And going back to atoms, this represents the atom oxygen actually bipping around in pairs. And then we could also see just lithium here on its own. So now you can see particles are either atoms or molecules. Now, the next thing we want to know about this process, or remember that is that we use this number, the big old honking thing, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Particles are equal to 1 mole of particles. So if I were doing this to this or this to this, I'm going to use this. Now let's move on. The next thing we're going to be exposed to is moles to grams. So if we wanted to go moles convert to grams, we would use the top arrow. If we were saying grams converted to moles, then we would use the bottom arrow, and that's what that means. Now you have something that is going to give you all the numbers that you need to do any conversion of any atom or molecule. Today we're just going to talk about atoms because that's what the homework assignment is about. And there is one source that will just make life considerably easier for you. Yes, it's the periodic table. Now let's make this just a little bit bigger so we can see a little more detail. And now we have, as you look at this, at the bottom, I need to get my pointer up on top. You can't read it real well here, but you know right down here is the mass of the element. That little number there at the bottom. That's what's going to do it for you. So you'll notice that everybody on the periodic chart has a different number at the bottom. Now these are a little hard to read, but if you look, for instance, at lead, lead is 207 grams. That means 207 grams of lead is 1 mole of lead atoms. And the mole is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. And now if we go up here to carbon, this guy has 12 So 12 grams of carbon is going to be 1 mole of carbon atoms. So we see in 12 grams of carbon what we would see in 207 grams of lead, or exactly the same number of atoms. Number of atoms, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. And for hydrogen, we would have 1. So 1 means that 1 gram of hydrogen would have 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. That's why hydrogen is so doggone light, because it's lighter than air and it will bring a balloon up. We all know about that. Anyway, so everybody has its own number, and with those numbers we can do the conversions that we need to do. So let's pack this up and put it down here where it will be out of the way, and let's think about what the next thing that we're going to be doing is, and that is using the periodic chart to give us how many grams is equal to 1 mole. So you want to write that down. Now, tonight's homework, what I want you to do is follow this as a general example of how the homework should be done. And how should the homework be done? Well, very simple. Nothing new here. We have a given and we have a find. And we're converting moles to grams. And fortunately, we're doing it for elements, so that we don't have to worry about adding up the masses to get the molar mass. What we have here from the periodic chart is the grams that equal a mole, and we call that the molar mass. So a molar mass, 1 molar mass of potassium, is defined for us on the periodic chart as 39 grams. So 39 grams of potassium is going to be equal to a mole. So what we want to do is get the molar mass here, the potassium, to be able to make our conversion. We're starting with moles, so we have 5.2 moles of potassium, and we're going to put that over 1. After we put it over 1, we're going to then multiply by another fraction. And where are we going to get that fraction from? That's what we had back in this slide under the box. The periodic chart gives us the grams per mole. So now we know that 37.1 grams of potassium is equal to 1 mole. From that, we make a fraction. So right now, I would like you to make that next fraction. This is your equality. Make the fraction that you think there should be in the next step. And turn off your video right now and try it on your own. Okay, you've tried it on your own. Let's see if your manipulation of the two guys here is going to be, first of all, in the correct position and then for the correct reason. So why would I take this guy and put him on the bottom? I would put him on the bottom here because, why? Good. I'm going to cancel my moles of potassium. And so here we go. We're going to cancel those guys out. And of course, there's no question about it, this guy's going to be on top. And look at that. It's the same unit of measure that we had here in our find. And so the only unit of measure at the end is going to be grams of potassium. And now all we have to do is a simple multiplication, and we're done. Okay, run that number in your calculator, and let's see how you do. So you should have had 190 grams of potassium. This number was the molar mass, which we had over here. This is the moles from the given, and the find was to get to this point right here. That's how I want to see your homework done for tonight's homework. Thank you for watching.